But today we wanted to talk about the constitution's diets because if you've been following me for a long time and you're really into tcvm, which is traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, the energetics of food and how food affects our bodies, then you kind of get this and you're like, oh, this is really awesome. And if it's brand new to you, you kind of go, I can't figure this out. I don't know what to do. How do I pick which one to feed my dog? So we get that a lot. And so the first thing that I want everyone to know, which is really critically important, is that these are balanced diets for adult dogs. Any adult dog could eat any one of these diets because all of our body systems work together. It's not like you can say, well, my dog has a heart and I only want to deal with feeding the heart, which is the fire element. You basically, they all interact. So the water element controls the fire element. Think about a fire hose putting out the fire. Water puts out fire. So water controls the fire element. But the fire element controls the metal element. And the wood feeds the fire. And the fire is the parent of earth. So they all interact. So you're not going to screw up if you feed the wrong one. You're not going to have big problems. You're not going to unbalance your dog. But it can be really helpful if you are trying to work on a specific issue. So I'm going to start with the wood diet. So wood personality, I'm a wood. Do you guys know what you are?
I have not. No, actually,
You haven't done the personality profile on yourself?
I'm
trouble.
You're trouble. Well, we actually have a human personality profile. You guys might want to download it and do it. We have the pet personality profile on the website, and then we also have the human personality profile. And the difference is with humans, we can look a lot at emotions and how we react to things, and so there's a lot more granularity, like you can really dive down a little more. A lot of times we know some of the emotions of our pets. Are they really fearful? Are they really outgoing, happy, bouncy? So that can give us, are they bossy? So that can give us a lot of information. And so that's kind of how we try to balance things out. Like if you have a dog who is afraid all the time, which is usually the water elements. So for those who are in veterinary medicine or even training, daycare, boarding, those animals who are hiding under the bench or hiding in the corner behind mom and dad, those are waters. And they're like, I am not coming out. You can't make me. And a lot of times they'll be barking at you because they're trying to scare you off. They're like, I'm scared to death. If I bark, maybe you'll go away and we can just forget. So versus the wood personalities, the quintessential wood personality is sort of the German Shepherds. It's all good as long as things are going their way. But when it doesn't go their way, they'll eat you. So these are the ones, like you come in the office as a veterinarian. I come in the office and I'm like, hi, buddy. Let me tell you, I had more German Shepherds bite me. And I think it's because my wood personality and their wood personality really clash. Really. It's like, I want to be in charge. And they're like, nope, I'm going to be in charge. So these guys, they're not hiding in the corner. They're standing their ground. And they're just waiting for you to do something wrong. And then they're going to tell you that you did it all wrong. And so in veterinary medicine, and I shouldn't say anytime we're dealing with dogs, when you can figure out the base constitution or personality of an animal, it allows you to deal with them a lot better because you know where they're coming from. So for instance, if I have a shepherd that's standing there staring at me and I need it to do something, I better ask nicely. And so there's something we used to say all the time in vet med, but using bruticane, which is basically I'm going to pin them down. Doesn't work with these guys. They are going to fight for all they're worth, and they're probably going to win. And you might lose some fingers or your face in the process. So these guys, they're great dogs, and they need a job. And if you don't give them a job, they get what we call liver chi stagnation. And the wood element is liver and gallbladder. Those are the organs that rule it. Liver chi stagnation is frustration. So if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with all this anxiety and like, oh my gosh, I didn't finish that. I didn't do this. I'm so worried. Like, that's that. And so if you have an animal that is a working breed and it doesn't have a job, you can get that liver chi stagnation. So with the wood constitution, so I have the list of ingredients here. This diet is actually fairly neutral when we're talking about energetics, hot, cold, or neutral, because it has pork heart, which is pretty neutral. It has turkey wing, which is pretty neutral. Has chicken gizzards, which are warm, carrots are warm, but then it has cucumbers, which are cold. It has kale, it has celery and cabbage, which are cold, apples, basil, turmeric, and some things to balance it out, wheatgrass powder, cod liver oil. The ingredients were chosen to help move that liver chi stagnation. So cabbage, apples, basil, turmeric, celery, they're going to drain and move. So if I know that every person in their life has experienced this. I'm so mad. I just want to explode. You feel it right here. That's what that is. Now, you earth personalities, we'll get to earth. Earth personalities are like, everybody just needs to be friends. Let's all get along. They have a lot less of that. Whereas us woods, we have that angst a lot. So that's the special ingredients that we see in there. That's what they're doing. They're helping kind of damp that down. So if you have a dog who's showing aggression or wants to really be in charge, that's where this can come in really handy. Does your dog have to be a wood personality when you do the wood personality test? No, because they could be another personality element that is either over controlling the wood or draining or feeding the wood too much. So it can come from a lot of different places, but this is just kind of one thing that I love to use this for, is that frustration, or an animal with elevated liver enzymes on their blood panels. That's stagnation. That's, we got stuff. It's like having a bruised liver basically, and it's leaking enzymes. So the wood can be really good if you have an animal with elevated liver enzymes and you're using your milk thistle or your liver tonic and you're really working hard at bringing those down. Put them on this diet for a couple of weeks along with that. And then when you recheck it could be a couple of months, recheck your lab work and see. A lot of times that'll bring it right back down. Okay. Questions, guys?
I don't have any questions. I'm absorbing.
Good. Well, this is good because you guys get questions all the time too. Like, people are always going, which constitution do we use for this? And you're like, I don't know. So problems that we definitely see liver disease in this wood element, nail and foot pad problems. So dry, brittle nails, dry, cracked, brittle pads, that dry, cracked nose. We can see a lot of that with this. Anal gland disease. That is a wood element problem. So if you have a dog with chronic anal gland infections, chronic anal gland problems, scooting all the time, this can be really helpful for that. And also cruciate ligament tears, because the ligaments are ruled by the wood element. That's what they're nourished by, liver blood. So that's why we've got things in this recipe that nourish that liver blood. But again, this is a balanced recipe. You could feed it to any dog. Somebody emailed us a couple of weeks ago and their dog was a fire personality and they kept feeding the fire constitution and said, my dog's getting soft stools. And then I think they tried another one. The dog's still getting soft stools. They tried the wood and it was perfect. So, it was just digging down another layer and figuring out how the elements were interacting with each other. But she just kind of played around with it until she hit the one that really was what her dog needed. Okay. So we're going to move clockwise around our circle. Next up comes fire. So fire personalities. These guys were saying that Bonnie's a bit of a fire personality.
Just a little bit.
So they're very outgoing. They're very life of the party. Like they just want to play all the time. They're vocal. They talk a lot, but it's a joyful talk. It's not that angry talk that we get from the wood element. The woods are like, "Arr!" And the fires are like, let's play, let's play, let's play, let's play. So big difference in the sound of the voice. So for people, these are the people dancing on the bar top with the lampshade on their head, life of the party, outgoing.
Bonnie's done that a few times.
There you go. I've got some fiery personality, but I am actually a closet introvert. So yeah, not really a fire personality. And so when these guys are, these tend to be redheads. So just think Irish setter. When you think fire, like just picture that Irish setter, like running around with that beautiful red coat. They're fires. And so fires can be hard to control. They're just constant energy. So with this, let's see, for fire, when they are out of balance, or when the fire element is out of balance, so it may not even be a fire personality, but when this element is out of balance, that's when we get heart problems. So whether that's dilated cardiomyopathy, mitral valve disease, separation anxiety, restlessness, insomnia. So we see fire deficiencies a lot in our senior pets who are getting up in the middle of the night, wandering, barking. They're lost. They're getting stuck in corners. A lot of times it's a fire deficiency for those seniors. So when we look at this one, it's got a lot of heart in the ingredients because like feeds like. So pork heart and beef heart, both of which, because these guys get grass-fed beef, both of which are neutral. So again, we don't want to throw flames on our fire, but we want to support our fire. We got turkey wings in there, which are also pretty neutral. We've got chicken gizzards, which are a little bit warming, but the gizzards are a really good chi tonic because we want to keep the blood flowing. So that's one of the problems. If we have a blood deficiency, we'll throw a lot of blood tonics at them, and then it sits there like a lump. We got to keep it moving. So that's what the gizzards and the carrots are for. And then we've got some dark leafy greens in there. We have turnips to drain damp, because if we have an animal that is having a heart disease problem, we want to make sure that we're not getting fluid buildup in the lungs, fluid buildup in the abdomen from that heart failure. This one has beef tongue in it. And the reason it has tongue is that the tongue is the external opening for the heart, because these guys talk a lot. So that's the tongue. Okay, so that's what we've got with our fire element. Again, this is a balanced diet. It could be fed to anyone. We've got shiitake mushrooms in there. Really good. I love mushrooms anyway, but they're really good for digestive health. And on your website, I do believe, under each one of the constitutions, there is a description of what each ingredient does. Am I correct?
There is.
There
That
is.
is correct.
So that's another area where you could go to the allprovide.com website and you could see each ingredient listed, and it'll say, well, we used beef tongue because it is a chi tonic. It is, whatever. And so all that's listed in there. Okay. So earth animals and earth people. The earth is ruled by the digestive system. We call it stomach and spleen in Chinese medicine, but it's really the digestive system. So don't think of that red organ spleen in Western medicine, that hemangiosarcoma thing. That's not what we're talking about. Spleen in Chinese medicine is digestion. So we're talking about digestion. The color for earth is yellow. So you'll see a lot of yellowish type things in recipes for earth. The earth element tends to be yellow. So yellow labs. Think yellow lab. I think yellow lab, and I'm like, oh, you just want to squish them and mush them, and they're just like, oh, I'm so happy. Like, they come up to you with their tail wagging, but they're not screaming at you like the fire dogs. They're just like, hi, I'm just here. I just, like if you want to have a lot of golden retrievers fit in here too. If you want to have a therapy dog that you take to nursing homes and hospitals and, reading sessions with kids, get a yellow lab. because they're just like, "I just love you." So that's what you want. If we pick like, if you want a working dog, you want a Schutzhund dog, go for those wood personalities because they're going to take them down. Why do you think that the police usually use Malinois and German Shepherds? Because that's what they're made to do. That's what their personality is. You see a lot of Rottweilers doing Schutzhund, Dobermans doing Schutzhund. So kind of those black and tan dogs. The fire dogs, you know, if you want a hunting dog that's going to go bounce through the fields all day, Irish setter, they're good for that. But these earth dogs are just, like, they don't really want to, they don't want to be your running buddy, really. They want to be your sofa buddy. And they tend toward obesity. So when we have the earth element out of balance, we have a lot of digestive issues. Shocking. Fire element out of balance, we have heart problems. And with wood element out of balance, we're going to get liver, gallbladder, a lot of ear infections, anal gland infections. With earth kids, they're ruled by their digestive system. So where are we going to see things show up? Well, we're going to get vomiting. We're going to get diarrhea. We're going to get constipation. We're going to get anorexia where they just don't want to eat. So for this, and also the digestive system from a Chinese medicine perspective does not like cold. This is why we tell you to warm your food up. So even if you're feeding a raw food, don't take it straight out of the refrigerator and feed it to them. Soak it in a hot water bath, cook it a little bit, whatever you want to do to warm, add hot water, add hot bone broth, but bring it up to at least room temperature because the digestive system hates cold. That's why we should not drink cold beer. We should not put ice in our tea. Everything should be at room temperature to keep our digestive system happy. Now, with that said, I do give my dogs frozen treats, but they get a little frozen treat at night, after dinner. So that is very different from feeding your dog cold food all the time. And I know that's something for years, and maybe they still do. A lot of trainers said, well, to entertain your dog, take a Kong or some other toy that you can put their food in, put it in the freezer, and then feed them, give them their food, let them get their calories. That way they're working for it. Except that's a terrible way to feed them because it's cold. So it's not good for the digestive system. And over time, you'll end up getting more problems. So for this, we wanted things to be a little bit more warming. So we went with chicken as our base meat, which chicken is energetically warmer. So if you have an earth dog who is really hot, this diet might not be perfect for them. So if they have a lot of inflammation in their bowel, it might not be perfect. You might need to go with something that's a little bit cooler, and we've got a couple other options. So we use chicken legs for this, pork heart, and that's neutral, and then the chicken gizzards, because the gizzard is the stomach of the chicken or the turkey or the duck or the goose, whatever, the bird. So the gizzard is the stomach. So this is like treating like again. We've got some liver in there. And then with this, again, we've got turnips in there because not only does the digestive system not like cold, it also doesn't like damp. So we don't want too much water hanging around in there, and the turnips will drain that. So that's why those are in there. The shiitake mushrooms help. The ginger root is warming. So for a lot of earth animals, this is going to be really good, really supportive. And if you have an animal with IBD, I know that everybody talks about their animals being allergic to chicken, but frankly, it's not necessarily, there's very few that have a true chicken allergy. And what we find, particularly if they've been on dry kibble, they cannot tolerate that highly processed chicken, but they can tolerate fresh chicken like you're going to have in these. So like Myra, for anybody who remembers Myra, our little Cavachon, who came with hot pink elephant skin that was horribly infected, and she'd been on a really poor quality kibble. Within 6 months of getting her system cleaned out, she could eat anything. It didn't matter, I mean, as long as it wasn't kibble, as long as I fed it fresh. So she could eat beef, she could eat chicken, she could eat, I mean, that bowl would have been just fine for her at that point. But if I had tried that right when I got her and she had all those disasters, it would have not worked for her. So we had to get the system cleaned out first. So this is going to help those guys kind of get rebalanced. So if you have a dog even if you don't know what personality they are, but you're like, oh my gosh, my dog is cold all the time. I've got a dog in chronic kidney failure that's, stage 1 or stage 2. We're not having to restrict phosphorus, protein, any of that kind of stuff. This would be a great diet for them because it's going to be warming. It's going to warm that digestive system. And a lot of times those senior animals are not that thrilled about eating in the morning because we call them old cold animals. And so if you have a dog who doesn't like to eat their breakfast until noon, they don't even like to get out of bed until 11 or 12 o'clock in the morning, this is something that would be good to feed them. And so a lot of times for those kinds of animals, if you want to feed them twice a day, your first meal might not be till noon or 1 o'clock, and your second meal might be 7 or 8 o'clock at night because they have to get up, get moving, and kind of get the energy flowing before they even think about eating. We see this with older people as well, particularly older women. If you go to the nursing home and you're going to see all these old women bundled in their sweaters, like my mom, who is, oh my God, how old is she? 86. Her bedroom is on the sunny side of the house. And she sits in her rocking chair in the hot sun, coming in her window, in front of the window, in a blanket. Now it's like 90 degrees outside.
Sounds like you need to feed her some earth diet.
I'm like, how? Why are you not sweating to death? But that's what happens as we get older. So it takes us a little bit to get going. Okay, so next up, we have metal personalities. So these kids love to obey the rules. They want all their ducks in a row and do not change their schedule. Like it better be. So I think of border collies with this. Like I need a job. They really need a job to do. Like they'd like to be in charge of something, but they only want, they're not really aggressive like the wood personalities tend to get. Like the wood personalities are like, I'm going to just, don't back me in a corner. These guys are just like, yeah, we're going to do it this way. And so they just have these rules that have to be followed. And so you kind of don't really want to invade their space. You want to make sure they have a job to do because these guys, even though they're a metal, they will get liver chi stagnation if they don't have a job to do. So if you live in a high-rise apartment in the city and you have a border collie, you better give them a job to do. You better get them a lot of exercise because you're going to have liver chi stagnation. Now, metal, think of it this way, metal controls wood. An axe, a steel axe, chops down a tree. So metal controls wood. And if our metal is out of balance, it can be over controlling and really hurt that wood element. So you might need to support that wood element. So if you have one of those working dogs, I tend to think of these more as like black and white dogs, Aussies, border collies. If you have one of these working dogs and their personality is out of whack and they're getting a little bossy or aggressive, try feeding them the wood element because it could be that they're just overacting on their wood. They may be chopping that tree down. So the metal element is actually ruled by the respiratory system. So the lungs, the sinuses. So when these guys are really out of whack, we might get pneumonia. They might be more prone to kennel cough or sinus infections, dry skin. The metal element, the lung is actually in charge of the skin. It seems like a weird connection, but so if you have an animal with a lot of dry coat problems, and we are heading into the metal element, this is fall, and it's associated with dryness. So if we don't get enough yin tonics or enough moisture into these metal elements in the fall, as the air is going to start getting drier, we're coming off that hot heat and humidity from summer. So depending on where you are, that's going to start October, November. We're going to start getting that drier air and dry skin. And that's, your grandma was right. You should wear a scarf when you go outside and protect your neck and your breathing apparatus. Grandma was right. See, there's some truth to some of these old questions. So for metal, we've got turkey in here, and the turkey is neutral. And we've got pork liver, and turkey and the pork are pretty good yin tonics here, and the shiitake mushrooms and apples as well. And we've got thyme in here, which is an herb that really supports the metal element. So if you have a metal pet, you might need to support their metal element as we move into the cooler air. So interestingly, like it's been 95 here for a while, and then the last couple nights it's been in the 60s, which is like so refreshing. I feel like it's a little too early though. I'm like, wait, we can't be having fall yet. Like I haven't even done summer. So so this one is to balance that out a little bit for these guys. And so with that, we could also feed the wood element because that's got pork heart, which is a really good yin tonic. And remember that metal can overact on wood. So if I had a metal constitution going into the cooler season and the drier air, I'd probably feed them both some wood and some metal to help support that. Okay, last but not least, we have the water element. So these are those scaredy cats, dogs, scaredy dogs, hiding in the corner, maybe barking at you, or maybe just they've got their back to you. They are hot, like they won't even look at you. Like I am not coming out of here. You can't make me. They have no confidence, so they just watch everything that's going on and just keep their paws crossed that nobody's gonna make them do anything because they're too afraid. And these guys, the water element is shocking kidneys and bladder. And so also shocking, these guys, they're scared. And these are the peers. These are the nervous peers. Like they come in your office and you look at them and they're like, don't look at me, don't look at me. And they pee. We have happy peers too, but really these are the nervous peers. These are the, I'm really afraid of things. The water element also controls the bones and the hind end, the teeth, and the nerves and spinal cord and brain. So all of the nervous system, the bones and the teeth. So we'll see a lot of, when we have water problems, that's a lot of arthritis, that's a lot of hind end weakness, intervertebral disc disease, urinary problems, clearly. So chronic bladder infections. So you don't have to have a dog who's a water personality to have all of those issues. Any personality can have those issues, but then we have to look at it and say, well, do I need to support their water element? Because maybe something else is overacting on the water element. So, and with this one, earth actually can overact on water because it acts as a dam. If you think earth is earth, soil, you make a dam to hold the water back. So that's the grandparent for the water. All right, so for this one, a lot of these animals tend toward being cold, more so than hot. So we used chicken for this one as our main ingredient because that's going to be more warming. We've got some pork in there because it's a yin tonic, so we're replacing all that water that these guys are peeing all over the place. We have kidney in this one, again, like treats like. And then we have things that really direct the water in the body. So when we eat and drink and take in water, first it goes through the digestive system. The digestive system sends the water up to the lungs, and the lungs send the water down to the kidneys. So you can see how all the different elements play in. So you can't just treat one, you're always treating all of them. So what we want is we want the digestive system to send that water up to the lungs. We want the lungs to work efficiently and send it down to the kidneys. And so we have things in here that actually push the water in the right direction. One of those is the asparagus, but the green beans are very good at that as well. We've got cranberries in this one because anybody who's dealt with animals with chronic urinary tract infections, you know that cranberries can be really helpful at keeping E. coli bacteria from sticking to the bladder wall. So one of the easiest things you can do is add cranberries to the meal. Please grind them up because if you feed whole cranberries, they come out whole. We found that out with Gwen's dog. So that's a little bit of an explanation. I don't know if did that clear up anything for you guys?
Oh, for sure.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I know there's a million questions in here, and I can't, if I stop to look at questions, I will totally lose my train of thought, and then I'll never complete the loop. So those are the 5 elements. And so, they can be interchangeable. So when you look on the website, you'll see that each element has a season. So right now we're actually coming into Earth. Earth is the 5th season for Chinese. It's late summer. So it's what we consider like the dog days of summer. So end of August, September, that's kind of Earth. And then we go into fall, which is metal. Winter is water. And that's why interesting before I knew all this stuff, I used to say, why do I always get blocked cats in February? It's the water element. It's bladder problems. Block cats. Cats always block in February. Why do we see a lot of urinary tract infections in February? Well, partly because people can finally see the pee in the snow and they go, oh, look at that, it's red. But we do get more urinary tract problems when that element is at its peak. So then we move into spring, which is wood. That's when we get all that new growth. The color of wood is green. So we get all that new growth. And then we move into the summer, which is the fire element. And so you can also feed for the seasons. So if we say, okay, fire is when fire is at its peak in summer, well, maybe we don't want to be feeding the fire element in summer because it's already at the top. Maybe we should be feeding the water to damp down the fire a little bit. So you can also use it seasonally if you look kind of over on the right. So when you follow those arrows, it kind of tells you what controls what. So fire is on the right. The red arrow goes over to metal. And so fire controls the metal. And then we have the blue arrow, water controls the fire. So right now we're going into earth, which is late summer. So we look at what controls the earth, and that is the wood. So you might want to feed wood element as we go into late summer to try to keep that under control a little bit. Again, you're not going to screw them up if you just randomly pick one. If you look at the ingredients and you're like, wow, that's really cool, I like that, and you want to feed it to your dog, you're not going to screw them up. We recommend rotation all the time anyway. So you can rotate through seasons. You can rotate based on what conditions they're showing. So, you can't screw them up. And you can rotate this in with the other, I'll provide the beef, the chicken, the pork, the turkey. You can rotate it with pup loaf. You can kind of be all over the place with it.